In one of the most stubborn, most painful conflicts in the world, a really simple idea took root. What happens, what really happens, when the enemy becomes a person? Today, we're digging into the story of Seeds of Peace. So let's just start with the wild question that sparked this whole thing. Imagine it. It's 1993. The Oslo peace process is making headlines, but a journalist named John Wallach is thinking, what if you didn't wait for the politicians? What if you took teenagers, kids who've only ever known each other as enemies, and you just put them in the same room? Or, hey, what if you made them share a cabin? And believe it or not, that's exactly what he did. In the summer of '93, this idea wasn't just an idea anymore. It became a real-life experiment in forced proximity. It was a huge gamble on the power of simple human connection to cut through generations of hate. All right, so how did this totally radical question actually turn out in practice? Let's go back to that very first summer. That first summer, they brought 46 teenagers together. We're talking Israelis, Palestinians, and Egyptians, all flown out to a summer camp in, of all places, Maine. Thousands of miles away from the checkpoints, the politics, the whole mess. Suddenly, they were just campers. And wow, was it intense. I mean, this was not some sing-along kumbaya situation. Not at all. They fought. They brought all their anger, all their pain, all their national stories with them. But in between the arguments and the tears, they still had to pass the salt at dinner. They still had to play on the same soccer team. And slowly, something started to give. Now, what's so fascinating about this is that it wasn't just some nice, hopeful idea. It was actually grounded in some pretty serious psychological theory. So let's get into the science of what was going on at that camp. It all comes down to something called the contact hypothesis. This is the academic backbone of the whole Seeds of Peace program. Basically, the theory says you can't just throw people from opposing groups into a room and hope for the best. Doesn't work. You need very specific, carefully managed conditions for that prejudice to actually start breaking down. And this is the recipe, right here. You need all four of these things. At camp, everybody is just a camper. Boom, that's equal status. They have to work together to win the canoe race. There are your common goals. Those daily, super intense, facilitated talks, that's the meaningful contact. And the whole camp structure, the counselors, the rules, that provides the institutional support. It's like a carefully designed social laboratory. And this is absolutely crucial to get. The point of those long talks was never to get someone to change their mind about politics or to abandon who they are. Nope. The goal was something way more basic and maybe way more profound. It was just to see the human being sitting across from you, even if you completely, totally disagree with them. And when that happens, you get to the absolute heart of the transformation, something the alumni of the program all talk about. They call it cracking the monolith. See, these kids show up and they see the other side as this one big, scary, uniform thing, a monolith. All Israelis think this, or all Palestinians are like that. But at camp, you don't meet a monolith. You meet a person. This slide just lays it out so clearly. You go from the abstract to the specific. The idea of the Palestinian or the Israeli gets replaced by, Yara or David. A person with a name, a family, a goofy laugh, and their own story of loss. The stereotype it shatters when it comes face to face with a real individual person. Just think about this for a second. A real story from the camp. An Israeli girl talks about meeting a Palestinian girl whose brother was killed by the Israeli military. Before camp, that's just a headline, right? Something abstract. But sitting there, hearing the story from her, seeing the actual grief on her face, it stops being abstract. It becomes painfully real, and you just can't deny that person's humanity anymore. But look, let's be real. It's not a magic bullet. The program is pretty upfront about its limits, and it's really important we talk about the critiques and the very real challenges it faces. So first off, Seeds of Peace will be the first to tell you it's not going to solve the whole conflict. And that warm, fuzzy feeling from camp, it can fade pretty fast when you go back home to a society that's still at war. Plus, there's a really important critique that the model sometimes creates a false sense of balance, between an occupier and an occupied people. These are all tough, valid points the program has to wrestle with. Okay, so keeping all those limits in mind, why are we even talking about this? Why does it matter? Especially right now, with violence flaring up so intensely. After the horrific attacks of October 7th, 2023, and the war that followed, the space for any kind of dialogue just slammed shut. The wounds were so fresh, and the hate was just off the charts. But here's the thing. The alumni of this program had something that almost nobody else did. When they were being bombarded with stories of a monstrous, faceless enemy, they had a memory, a specific person. They had a name, a face, a memory of laughing with them or arguing with them late into the night. And that, right there, that's the whole ballgame. In a war that runs on dehumanization, being able to see the human on the other side isn't just a nice, passive feeling. It's an active form of resistance. Holding on to the memory of a person, not a monolith, is how you defy the very logic of hatred itself. So that leaves us with this question. The program planted a seed. Now, a seed doesn't guarantee a forest, and a lot of those seeds probably won't make it, but just the act of planting it creates a possibility, a memory of shared humanity that refuses to be completely erased, even in the absolute darkest of times. And in a world at war, maybe that possibility is everything.